Sunday, and as you can see, it's like getting all flooded out, like that. It's a pretty beautiful day. Weather forecast says there's a 100% chance of rain, but it's not until night time, and it's meant to get really hot in the middle of the day. It's only like just after 10 in the morning. But yesterday was on and off rain all day. Kind of a horrible day to try and do anything, so it was like a bit of a chill out day with my wife and Sam yesterday. Cicadas aren't too bad at the moment though. Bad on Friday, are they? That wasn't up here though. I've noticed that his nose is going nuts today. Just like sniffing everything, and not just on the ground, he's like sniffing the air an awful lot. I think I did just hear wallaby kangaroo bounce off. But I think because we had the rain yesterday, it smells really crisp. Two more panels, almost up to the front of the street. The steps are fairly high on this part of the block. From about here, it's been a step each time. But yeah, ended up doing two. I was thinking of only doing one, but then that hole dug really easy, not a lot of rock. So I did the next one, that went fine. So yeah, two at once, easy mix up of concrete. Backfilled a couple of these while I've just had year 10. It's Monday, and I've got two kids on the lathes. This one here, first time doing a bowl. We're just doing a flat laminate bowl where we've got the pieces going, alternating grains to give it a bit of strength. And he's done pretty well. That was the hollowing part was a period's worth of work, so he's done good there. Sacrificial piece of pine on the bottom. A rolling pin in progress. The student had done this side of the handle earlier in the period and has done a pretty good job at getting this side matching. It's pretty close. So I've done really well with that. I'll continue on with the next lesson. In terms of the stools, another one glued up and clamped up, so that's looking really good. Got one continuing to do some staining. Did a bit of a clean up through the cabinets because there was just so many old job pieces. Worked out the stuff that's in here belongs to current students. I've had some students who've left school, moved to different schools and those sort of things, or they've moved on from these projects. I went through and found a whole stack of stuff that from incomplete projects or offcuts where they've cut something out and they've had the leftover and they've thrown it in the cupboard. So whole stack of pieces that are 140 by 140 or slightly larger. I'm going to keep those for bowl blanks. A couple of long 140 by whatevers, 140 by 19. and yeah, a whole stack of this 40 by 19. So that's all going to go into the storeroom. Take these ones in and I'll show you where. Probably seen in the past, but I just like to show it off. We got very into trying to reuse as much as we can, because our funding can be strained at times. So this shelf, I'll keep all the 140 by 19, some stuff that might be a little bit under from projects or that sort of stuff. A lot of the 140 by 12 I've cuts. And then some of my sample sizes here. I will have the 65 by 12, which is, what do we used to use that for? 65 by 12 was a piece that we used to use for, I think, one of the Year 8 projects. 40 by 19, quite a common size. You can actually buy that size from the mills. So I end up putting a lot of the little offcuts into here for them to reuse. 65 to 70 by 19. A lot of that's like the stuff that I use over in the construction space and for some projects here. 50 by 19, that's for the little nail box that we used to do, or that we do. So you'll have all these little offcuts in there. And then I have some random 19mm, random but useful 12mm. Sometimes get a little bit out of hand, and the random but useful 19, 70 by 35, 90 by 35, 40 by 40. So all our stuff, we try and keep this. And this side is mostly pine, because that's the main stuff we use. The opposite side of the storeroom is where I keep all the hardwood leftovers, usually Tassie oak or Vic Ash, Meranti, sometimes used to be known as Queensland maple. Some people have called it like a Indonesian mahogany, but it's really fine grained timber, and that's what that bowl is, the Meranti. And then some random hardwoods and plywood. So I'll get the rest of that stuff stored into here. School seems to have been overrun with these little caterpillars everywhere. It's been really muggy rainy. Okay, workshop's looking a mixture of organised and chaos. I bought the track saw over, and ever the recycler, this was a sheet of the plywood that used to be on that big wall that we turned into an open fence again. So I basically cut off the really nasty parts off the outside, and in that cabinet area down here, I've got one panel here, and the door's got to get installed. And got that one there, and this is going to be the front part, making sure little bits of wood and screws don't get underneath the doors. Got a door jamb put on. I trimmed the door down. I was kind of lucky enough to have enough timber top and bottom in these hollow core doors to trim it. When I hung this, I had it at the right height. I got a really good gap at the bottom, and this was rubbing, so I trimmed it again, and I just cut into that last bit of timber. So I took the bit off cut that was on the floor, just smacked the cardboard in, and nailed that bit of timber back in. So that's there. So this is the Year 12 storeroom. We've got that table there for them to stack stuff on. There's 2 levels there, and I've put their cabinets that were down the front of the room into here. They should close a little bit better when all of this stuff is in here. They might be better off having the sawhorses and that stuff stacked here. This is for the smaller jobs. I've still got to put the inner part of the door jamb so that clicks better. This doesn't really need to be locked, but it's going to be just tidier. Year 11 one. I've still got to organise that one. I've got a log in here. I've got to move that table, and there's a lot of steel in there. I've still got to do the door jamb. This door jamb is top piece was a piece of pine. These ones were Tassie oak that used to be part of the cabinetry in one of the classrooms. I think it was wood 2 that we demolished last year. Took all the cabinetry out of the front. Down the front of the room, you'll see a big space. Took the whiteboards down. I used to have, this whiteboard was hanging in front of an old one because the old one had it. And I took the cabinet off the end. It was on a piano hinge and bolted to the wall. That was the one that had all the safety glasses. So the safety glasses are now hanging on the front of here near the boots. So I've got two of the racks there, another one down the end past the other side of the saw. That's the perfect space for the smart board that I was talking about we're going to get. And the lady who was in the department's technology section that was organising the installation on Friday came down to check it, and at that point I hadn't had everything removed. Trim that pipe from the fan because that bottom section isn't needed. The smart board can be basically level with the bottom of this cabinet, and it'll go up to about here, and the projector, which is a short throw projector, just hangs straight above it. I've got power just down here behind this, underneath this cabinet for them to install that. I've got to find somewhere else from a shelf that I hold the folders on. The little cabinet just going down there means that they're being moved away from here. And this timber cabinet, I think I'll get rid of those doors, move down there so it's at the end of that cabinet thing area, because there's kind of a dead spot just there. So I'll move that down there so that becomes tool cabinets and timber. That'll open up this space. I might move this cabinet here, keep just the tool one up there for this end. That'll leave that space to reinstall my whiteboard, and I might be able to have the whiteboard and a blackboard, like a chalkboard, right next to it. I had no class last period, and after work it's now time for me to go home. I've got year 12 in here twice tomorrow, so I can work in here while they're doing their stuff and tidy up a bit. I started installing some new steel seats, you might see right down there at the end. I've got one here, still needs to be installed, but there's going to be two here. They're going to get rid of that one. I'm going to put one here, so I unbolted that today. It was really funny because I unbolted it and dragged it out there, and then lunch came and these girls who usually sit at it dragged it back thinking somebody had just been playing around with it. Had year 10 today. Students are on the lows. That stuff's gone. I've taken photos of the two projects, so I'll put them up there. There was the rolling pin and the bowl. This student was really happy with his bowl. He said he's promised it to his grandma. With those seats going outside, which I showed earlier, a couple of my students starting to dismantle this old blue one, which we did ages ago, and there's the timber that's going to go to the construction room. I'm going to dismantle this. So one table there, I actually used that for year 12 today for our class, because we've got the blackboard over there. The table that we're dismantling was replaced by that one you can see over there. So this room got a little bit more done in it. It's, all the class cabinets have been moved. My year 12 construction helped me out a little bit today. Undid this part from the cabinet because it was just swinging, and they've attached that to the wall, so we'll be able to use that for a bit of tool storage as well. I'm thinking that I'll move that timber one over to here, and that'll give that area clear for me to put whiteboard. With the blackboard, I'll move that, maybe move that little cabinet. Got this space completely cleared out, cleared off the table, moved it around. Got the year 11 boxes set up in there, so that's where all their stuff will go from now on. I've still got to hang the door. The year 12 door is working well. A bit more tidy up to do. Been a long day. So yesterday morning, I got messaged and asked if I could sit in as relieving DP just for the morning session today, because my timetable was pretty light, one of my lightest days. So I did relieving deputy this morning. A lot of the stuff that was being done out there this morning was timetable changes for some students, which I take care of in part anyway, so that helped. And then had a 12 timber class a bit later in the day. There's a small computer room which I'd put us into that class because it's a small class, so they can get their planning finished. And now that room's being renovated, so I had to move them out of there. And those metal seats that have been putting in around the school, they've got a couple set up near the room already. And the weather's been good, so I've been having my class with year 12 out on those seats,
and I grab a couple of the laptops that we have for classes to use from the staff room. And the students have actually taken really well to it. It's nice being out there in the air. They've actually been pretty productive. So we're getting a lot of their planning tied up a little bit, I think. And one of the bonuses was when they were talking about timber selection. All they thought was dark timber, light timber. They didn't even think dark timber, they thought staining light timber, because they're so used to just using pine. And I said, well, ignore stains. They're thinking of doing jewelry boxes. I said, just do some research for some light coloured timbers and some dark coloured timbers, and we'll see what we have available. And it was really eye-opening for one of these. He said, who'd have thought that timber comes in different colours? And he goes, I never would have thought that they would talk about timber in terms of different species. Just doing his research, and he was coming, and it was like really eye-opening for him. I said, yeah, there's lots of different species, lots of different colours, lots of different properties. Because we were right near the workshop, I was able to go into the storeroom and like bring out some Tassie oak, bring out some Moranti, bring out some Jarrah, and show them some different coloured samples that we actually have on site and available. And they could say, they go, oh yeah, this dark timber looks good next to this light timber. And so they're actually thinking a lot more and feeling a little bit more energised and getting into the idea of it's looking more real. We're getting to the point where we can start building. That's a real positive. So hopefully we can get their cutting list completely finalised, so we can say, yes, I do have the timber here that you need, that you could use, or we need to buy some. I know that a couple of students are going to have to buy materials because they want sheet goods or large stuff that we don't have.
About to leave Friday. Smart board got installed in the workshop, which is excellent. They're going to be back on Monday for testing. But I started rearranging a lot of stuff. Got a lot of my marking out tools over into this cabinet here. The saws and the chisel and that sort of stuff down there, which turned this cupboard here to a couple of shelves inside. This is where all the students' books, and I'll try and get my textbooks into here as well, because this will be able to be used as a theory room because I've got the smart board. I think I'm going to be able to move that cabinet, put my whiteboard up there, might twist that blackboard so it's lengthways. Think about where some of the stuff is going to go. Like, I like this little thing for my timber, but I might be able to just rearrange that shelf and get some junk out of that and use that for my timber storage as well as under the table. So that means that I won't need that at all, and I'll be able to have the whiteboards there. It's coming along really well. I just got to lock up because we've got the exec conference this afternoon or this evening and tomorrow.